with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll. Riley?
Present.
Kennedy, one member of our commission, had a serious bicycle last week. Phil was operated on a couple days ago. Phil. Sorry. Now am I on? So Phil Kennedy's not here. Les Schmidtke?
Present.
Ron Wilder?
Here.
Jim Nelson?
Here.
Jim Budney?
Present.
And Ted Van Oz.
Yes.
Chair Bill Kostick. So we just announced to everybody we're going to do a few business items, maybe a few more people will show up, and then tonight we're going to have a presentation on Stout. You have a handout. If you see other neighbors come in, please make sure they sign up, and we'll discuss the whole project. Russ Whitman, one of our engineers, is here to explain the project, but I think Jim Budney has an introduction to make.
Yes, I do. A very important and nice introduction. I was pleased that at yesterday's board meeting, the board accepted the employment contract of a new DPS employee. And George, if you'd come to the microphone, George Marks is our new DPS employee. We had 21 people apply for the job, and we weeded it down to 5 highly qualified, and George was our number one man, and thankfully for us, he accepted the position. And George, we're very happy to have you on board. I think you met Ted last night. Going down the line, Les Schmidtke is at the end. John Riley.
Hi.
Bill Kostick is our chair, excellent chair. Next to him, not so well, wonderful guy, Jim Nelson. Ron Wilder next to me, and John and Lorinda, who you will be working daily with. So I would like to welcome you aboard, and I look for good things from you, and I think the township will benefit by having you as an employee.
Who did we steal you from?
And George does live on the island. His children going to our schools, so he's also a resident as well as an employee.
George, when are you going to start?
Monday.
Oh, great. So I know we've been shorthanded in the Public Services Department for a while, so welcome aboard. We look forward to having the help and assistance. As you know, our role as the DPS Commission, we're advisory. Advisory to the Township Board and to the staff. And we have an exciting time, an agenda for the next few months with the bond proposal that we've recommended to Township Board that will be on the ballot. Now, we're advisory, but some of us meddle once in a while.
Some of us a lot.
But it's all, now, Les, you guys have probably known each other a long time.
We have worked together before.
All right, well, at any rate, welcome aboard. Anything else you want to say? No. Thank you.
Welcome aboard, George.
Now we'll continue with the approval of our normal agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as stated.
Is there support?
I'll support it.
Okay, one item I'd like 2 items to be discussed tonight, perhaps one under Lorinda's topic, but this would be later in the meeting. I'd like an update from Lorinda, and I think that you also, Ted, went to the Great Lakes Water Authority meeting. We all have that in our packets. Just a few words on that. And under my, as chairman's report, I would like to just add that I'd like to discuss the November 3rd road and bond campaign and where we are with things as far as our public information campaign is concerned. So with those 2 items,
With those two items, then I approve, make a motion to accept that agenda.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Is there any additional comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, we have the minutes of the July 14th meeting. You've all had a chance to look at them and entertain a motion to approve.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the July 14th, 2015 meeting of the DPS Commission.
Second.
Moved and supported that the minutes be accepted for July 14th. I have two comments, not that there's anything wrong with the minutes. First of all, we formed a drainage committee to look at some of the drainage issues and to meet with the county. We targeted in on a gentleman named Ken Cusell as the acting drain commissioner. I want to remind you of that, Lorinda. And the committee consisted of Ted Van Oz, Jim Budney, and Jim Nelson. I'd like to see a meeting take place before our next meeting, if we can get Mr. Cusell out here. The other item is I want to arrange for a meeting with the township manager and with Sohail Sabak, our engineer, and you, Les, to talk about that drainage problem you raised under the commissioner's reports, the area over by your property at Meridian and Parkway. Okay?
Okay.
We'll do that in the next month, too. Make a note of that. With all those comments, if there's no further comment, all in favor of the minutes indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The minutes are approved. Next, we have on pages 16 through 13 of our agenda the approval of bills.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the bills, vouchers 13392 to 13402.
There's support.
Support.
Any questions? If none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. We have a statement of our revenues and expenditures through the period July 31st. You've all had a chance to look at those. We'll receive and file those unless there's any questions.
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
On page 7, there was a check to Koppel Brothers for water main flushing at Toll Bridge. What
Page 7?
Yes.
Page
what was that for?
Wait a minute, page 7. Hold on.
Right about in the middle of page 7. Water main flushing at Toll Bridge.
It probably had something to do with a PRV valve. You mean for rains?
No, it's for Campo. It says Campo Brothers, water main repair.
No, it says water main flushing at Toll Bridge.
It was coded wrong. That was a confined space entry at Groseville Parkway and Meridian.
Okay, so that's
They
wrong.
came with us on that same job after we did the confined space entry. They just happened to be with us to, the labor assisted us with turning that 16-inch.
Oh, so you're saying that the description was incorrect that they put on there. Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
I knew they were
Did that
right.
answer your question, Les?
Yep.
Les?
Yes.
All right. Then statement of revenues and expenditures is filed. Next, we have the treasurer's report.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the treasurer's report of July 2015.
Is there support? There support? Any questions? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And on the back of that treasurer's report, you can see that the road improvement fund is down to $90,000, as it should be, given all the work we've done. So, with that, now it's time for public comment. Other than to discuss Stout, is there any public comment that anybody wishes to make? Because we're going to allow people the opportunity to talk about Stout. Okay, so I know public to be seen. And so now we're going to, if you can do these quickly, and I'm still kind of waiting for people to show up that might be late. So I was going to just jump into Stout, but let's give it a few more minutes. If I know this is real interesting to you. So under the manager's report.
How you spend my money.
Under the manager's report, Lorinda, would you give a report for our DPS manager, Lorinda Beneteau?
Sure. The first one under manager's report is for the Wayne County Road Initiative. Pardon me?
The agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just on the agenda. It's just an update. To date, right now, we have our first progress payment in for the amount of $304,476.25 that was paid to GV Cement. As part of the intergovernmental agreement with Wayne County, we can invoice them as we get these bills, and they are supposed to make payment within 30 days. However, in this intergovernmental agreement, it didn't state who to send it to, so Hyle's researching that to find out who at the county we send these invoices to. There's nothing in here to state so. We've also done some crack sealing. We piggybacked on Riverview's contract, and we don't have an invoice as of yet for that amount, but we had some money left over, so we did Dallas Drive. You're welcome. And a few other roads that we added on. Other than that, I believe they've about wrapped everything up. So
Is the crack sealing done? Is the crack sealing done?
Yeah.
The majority of it was...
they were doing it today. They were over on Dallas, so they're finishing up as well.
The majority of the crack sealing was down in the South Point area?
Down that area, correct. Right. They did it also Whitehall and Highland. Pardon me?
Have you received much public comment?
They were very happy to see it in their neighborhoods.
Good.
You know, I know Mr. Labadie had called me and had asked about Dallas Drive. It was not on the list, but at the end, when Cars Outdoor Services was almost completed, there was still some money left, and I told them immediately go over Dallas Drive because they'll be very happy to see you there. So they did.
I just came up from the Ford Yacht Club. They did an excellent job on South Point from the Ford Yacht Club to where we chip sealed.
Good.
Did a very good job.
And I know that in the area near the high school where I live, Grays Drive, Park Lane, the repairs on Park Lane, Grays Drive, Manchester all look pretty good.
Yes.
Jim, you live in the area north of us.
Yeah, and again, everything, they really did a nice job talking to the people in that area. They were pleased. They were surprised to see him out there. They were very happy, and they seemed to be very happy with the job that was done.
The reimbursement for Wayne County, all the invoices are going to flow through Ann's office, so I'll make sure I stay on top of her to make sure we're reimbursed.
My final comment is we were concerned about getting the repairs on Grays by the high school done. They are done. It drives pretty smooth, much smoother than it did. I know there are going to be more repairs needed next year, and I think we budgeted for more next year if that money comes forward. So, at any rate, anybody else have any comments about that? All right.
Okay, the second update would be on the Wayne County Household Hazardous Waste Collection. It's this Saturday at the Westland Shopping Center. You can enter off on Ankin Boulevard from Central City Parkway. It's a lot behind JCPenney's store. We have this flyer available on our website. There's a list of items that are acceptable. They will also be doing electronics recycling. This is only open to Wayne County residents, and it's free.
Okay, and I do want to compliment Lorinda, and I also want to compliment John for their work. A few weeks ago, we drove the island, and we noticed, of course it was easy to notice, that the county had not been out to do any roadside mowing. We supplement the county budget and do some roadside mowing ourselves, but we're in Wayne County, and they say they're going to be out once a year anyway, maybe twice a year. But frankly, as I drove the rest of the county in areas all the way to New Boston and Brownstown, all the major roads with a lot more traffic were in just as bad a shape as our island roads. But they've been out over the past week. They did a real nice job. I know that John Keim and his crew have been supplementing that. I want to thank you for getting the county out here. Things do look a lot better. We still have cleanup to do, but
One thing I want to note on that as well, Bill, is that at East River and Grays Drive, there's a lot of overgrowth there as well. They will be back out as soon as their machine has been repaired. So they did promise me this morning that they'd be back out.
East River and Grays Drive really affects the traffic to the high school.
Right.
Hopefully they will not start the day that school starts. Really got to work out in the road to clean that up. So hopefully they'll get it done before school starts.
I noticed that they're doing ditching, too, on Grosse Ile Parkway from East River Road west.
Yes.
They're cleaning that ditch out, which needs it.
That's good to know. All right, so with that, now we're down to Stout Road drainage. We just had another gentleman walk in. Are you from Stout Road, sir?
I am.
And we have an agenda and a packet back at the table, and you walked in the door. And
I think Mr. Benton's married to Mrs. Benton. You can share that packet.
We're used to sharing. Thank you.
oh, I had no idea. I'm sorry.
I know. Thank you.
And I'm sorry we have this big screen in front of us here, so I apologize. Okay, so next item on the agenda is we are going to discuss Stout Road. Everybody that's here regarding Stout, and I guess there are 3 households here out of 12, or 11 or 12. I'm frankly disappointed. But we will discuss the whole project, and anytime people want to call, they can call in. We became aware of this drainage problem, obviously, when we got through this spring. Ted Van Oz brought it up to us and pointed it out. We all went up and looked at it. We saw that several driveways are heaved. We know it's a problem. We asked our engineers, Rains Engineering, to go study what needs to be done. They came back with a report and went back, and they've now designed a fix. And Russ Whitman in a minute is going to explain the fix. But each of you should have a complete packet of the same information we have, the cost estimate, and what's proposed. But the format I would like to follow is, with those opening remarks, I'm going to let Russ come up and explain the project, what the fix is, and then I'm going to bring it back to the table here for the commissioners to ask any questions, and then we're going to open up to the public. You'll all have a chance to talk about it. And the way I view it, as of right now, this will probably be the first of a couple discussions on this we're going to have. My preference is I'd like to see us move forward with it. We have filed a permit with Wayne County. Now, the Wayne County operates anytime you touch one of their drains, you have to get a permit to do anything with it. Brenda Benito, our DPS director, asked Wayne County to come out and look at it with her, and they did. And they said it wasn't enough of a problem, that they couldn't afford to do anything because they have very limited budget. That's what they said initially. Our intention is, once we have this plan and your feedback, that we're going to go meet with them again. But the permit process can take 2 or 3 months. And so we're fully expecting, and I hope that by the time of our September meeting, if we don't have any idea when it's going to be reviewed, that we might get our county commissioner involved and ask if we can move it up. Because what I'm afraid of, we don't want to get into winter construction. We'd like to get it done so we can get the ground reshaped and see what happens. But this is the first discussion. So with those introductory comments, unless anybody has an objection, I'd like to ask Russ Whitman to come up and, Russ, explain the project, show the overlay, and explain the project, if you would.
Russ is a principal in CE Rain. George does for sure.
It's actually on 2 sheets. So this is one sheet. You've discussed it many times at the meetings. It's the south side of Stout. The road ditch runs from 7903 Stout to 8337 Stout. We looked at that area, and there were several driveways that were bad, dangerous, broken up from the culverts rising. We looked at the culverts, and it appeared that they weren't deep enough. This project was, I think Stout was paved in the 1990s, and for whatever reason, different replacements, the culverts aren't deep enough, meeting Wayne County standards. So we were proposing to deepen the ditch. We're not going to have like a county drain out there, but we're deepening the ditch 8 to 12 inches, which allows the culverts to have a foot of cover underneath the driveways, and that meets Wayne County requirements, which should minimize any frost heaving, if not eliminate it completely. So from those 11 addresses, we're basically deepening the ditch, giving it a side slope. It's probably going to move over a couple feet because the county requires a 3-on-1 side slope and a 2-foot bottom, and then a 1-on-3 going back up. That's the basic concept of the plan, and it improves the slope of the ditch too.
Russ,
I was.
How many feet are you going to move it over?
It varies. It's only a couple feet. So in other words,
I'd like you to explain, too, is where's the outlet? Where's it going to?
Oh, there's a.
You explain from one end to the other what's going to happen. It's going to be deepened. Where's your outlet and so forth?
That area drains to a manhole that's right located at. There's a storm structure at 8199. So it drains into that now with culverts. And then from that manhole at 8199, there's a pipe, storm sewer pipe that's 24-inch, I believe it is, that runs to the west and is the outlet for the whole area. So the ditches drain to this structure, goes down, and then drains down a 24-inch to the outlet at the canal.
In your initial investigation, wasn't there a manhole that was covered? Was that the manhole?
Oh, that manhole in front of that house was buried. I believe it was about 2 feet, John?
Last month, that's what we thought.
Yeah, they dug it up with the DPS's assistance and just looked at it, got the inverts on it, and just saw where it was. So part of this project, we're going to raise that manhole up to basically the road grade, have a couple pipes come out of it, 10 or 15 feet, and then start the ditches right there. So that manhole will be raised up so it's accessible. If it needs to be cleaned out, you can get to it by just taking the manhole cover off. Where it is now, it's buried. We hardly knew where it was.
You've provided us with a cost estimate that it's about $92,900
Yes.
for that basic work. And that basic cost estimate includes restoring all the driveways for now in gravel.
Yeah, that's correct. That estimate is a contingency, the engineering and stakeout and testing, and it includes, as you said, restoring the driveways with a gravel surface only.
Well, the stone you're proposing for now to put it in place is not just with like a regular road gravel, but could you describe it a little bit more?
Well, we're proposing a 21AA limestone, which is actually used for road base, but it packs down real good. That's why it's used for road base, and that's, once it's set, it's not going to be flying all over the place.
Well, also, is it the recommendation that for now that the driveways not be replaced other than gravel for this year until next spring?
Yeah, we're hoping to be able to do this project. You mentioned about the county and their approval and whatnot, and if it is done this year, it would be done late in the year, so we wouldn't want to be pouring, concrete or asphalt in, November, December.
And you want to make sure the drains are
We want to make sure they're working. Driving over the gravel is going to help compact it a little bit more. It's probably not necessary, but it's a little more safety factor that they're used. So if there's a soft spot for whatever reason, it can be addressed before they're paved. When they come to pave them, if they pave them in the spring, you scrape out 6 inches of stone or whatever the thickness is, 6 or 8 inches, set the forms or pour the asphalt, whatever you decide to do at that point.
Okay, so we'll open it up to Commissioner's questions.
I just wanted, at the beginning, you were talking about what you were going to do and the 3-to-1 and this and that, and I'm not sure that the residents necessarily would understand what all that meant. I wondered if you could just put it in layman's terms.
Yeah, the ditches are going to be deepened, like I said, 8 inches to a foot in that range. So if you can picture, we got the road here. We're going to come
Explain
over.
it to the residents. Yeah. Can they see you?
So we got the edge of the road's here. You got the edge of the road. We're going to come over 2 feet, which is about where the top of the ditch is right now, and then we're going to slope down at 3-to-1. So it's going to be about 6 feet, 5 feet to the bottom of the ditch. There's a 2-foot bottom, and then it slopes back up. Still in the right of way. We're not going on your property. It's all going to be in the road right of way. So the ditches will be improved. They'll be deeper. They'll work better, but it's not going to be like a gully that's through there. If that helps.
Yeah, thank you, Rod.
So it'll be bigger, better, and deeper, but it's not, I would say it's not going to be like a county drain or anything.
Will the ditches be mobile after they're completed?
Yeah, with a 3-on-1, that's...
slope that you can mow.
Yeah, I mean, you got to watch what you're doing naturally, but it's mobile. It's not like some of the ditches you see where it's down and back up. This will have a slope.
So the proposal is that we're going to move forward with is to restore the driveways to gravel. Now, does anybody here that has the concrete where you have a U-shaped driveway? You have two drive approaches where the concrete slabs have heaved 3 to 4 inches? I'm talking about the one concrete drive where the lip is come apart this much. So is that do you know that property owner? Does anybody here know that property owner? Yeah. I know where the house is too, but
Yeah, the concrete is heaved on both sides about a foot to 18 inches, I'd say. I mean, it's
you mean inches? Right? Heaved to 3-4 inches?
A foot to 18 inches?
oh, it's about a foot.
12 inches, then.
Yeah. A couple places it is.
Well, okay, the overall heaved portion maybe. I can't see the gentleman.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You come up to the podium?
Sure.
Maybe give your name for now.
Oh, I volunteered. Steve Benton, 7903 Stout.
Steve, when you say heaved, I've noticed that the displacement in the concrete is 3-4 inches.
Okay.
Slabs, but you're saying it's heaved as well.
Well, I'm saying, probably what you're saying is right. The edges of the concrete, the one edge is here, the other edge is up here, and there's probably, I'd say 9 inches to a foot of...
Or the whole concrete slab's gone up, but then the displacement on the two slabs as they relate to each other is 3-4 inches.
At least.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
at least.
That property owner is not here. So here's one of the dilemmas, and then we're going to open it up that I see, and the commissioners as well. Number one, we have 3 different kinds of drive there where it's there. We have a couple with stone driveways, gravel, let's call it, that's compact, that haven't heaved a lot, but they need to be redone. The culverts need to be replaced. We have a number of concrete drives where there's been displacement, one that probably hasn't been, that nobody would worry about, but it's going to have to be cut up in order to fix the whole drain. A couple of that are severe concrete drives, and a couple of asphalt drives, one that's very old, one that looks new, one that's heaved very badly. But when I say heaved, it's just a big bump, maybe a 6-inch rise in it. The other ones are less. So we have all kinds of different circumstances regarding people's individual driveways. So what do we do? I mean, how do we be equitable about this in terms of our costs? That's my concern. So we asked the engineers to put this together so that we would say, okay, everybody's going to be treated the same. We're going to fix them with the stone and let everybody in the spring fix the driveways. I guess one idea would be let everybody fix their driveways however they want after that. That would be one way to look at it from the overall taxpayer standpoint of the community. I figured we'd have some dialogue on that, probably some disagreement with all of you, with the property owners. So we'll give you the opportunity to speak to that. Are there any other questions from commissioners? Staff? Okay, I'll invite people to approach the podium and speak on the issue.
Hi, it's Marcy Tarziers again. How are you tonight? During the conversation, we're talking about estimated quantities. Are we talking about doing the entire driveway in this material, or are you just talking the approach itself?
It's just the approach.
Just the approach itself? Okay, that helped clear.
The edge of the road across to...
Right. Okay, and did you say that the ditch would end up being almost 6 feet deep?
No, it was...
All right, and was there anything in here for those of us that don't have a slope for you to work with? Because as you can tell, my mailbox is almost in the ditch already. You would have to create a slope.
Yes.
Okay, so you have budgeted for that in here.
Which address?
I'm 8031, ground zero for this project.
8031.
Yes, ground zero. This is the one that has the posts, the dock pilings as the mailbox, and it's going like this. and the mail truck goes way off the road and almost into the ditch to put the mail in the box every day. I'm waiting for the postmaster to give me that message that he's not going to deliver mail anymore.
I don't recall your specific mailbox, but that would have to be something that would be addressed in, the bidding stage.
Yeah, you did have one call out for remove and reinstall mailbox of 1. So that's probably mine,
It could be.
which is fine, but I was just making sure that you had allotted dirt or whatever else you would need to build up a slope, because there's no slope there on either side to work with.
And again, as far as our estimate, we have a contingency.
In case you run into
may
trouble.
not
Okay.
Be included in every one
Okay. All right. Those are my questions. And I guess to the commission, Mr. Palmera, can we not call him in the morning and ask him to put a rush or try and walk our permit
No,
through?
the answer is no, and the reason is we need to see what the permit office is going to do first.
Okay.
We can't keep calling in a chit every time we
Understood.
turn around.
Understood.
We have
I
drain
just wanna
projects
know.
every year, so the answer is
So
no.
what is their standard lead
When-
time? What is their standard lead time? Do they
It
give
range
one?
from 30 to 7 months. Now, I say that with some, I don't know the word, but when we did a project by Westcroft Gardens, they held our permit up for 7 months, went to another construction season, the county did, and tried to add $100,000 to the cost, and we refused to do it. So we did call then Mr. Palmera, and we got it back off.
Okay. I'm just wondering,
It seems like the permit office is blindfolded with rules and regulations.
and we understand.
And they don't look at the practicality of some situations. So my own view is we call them in when we have to.
Understood.
So
You guys
not
have to have
tomorrow.
the working relationship with
We've submitted the plans already.
That's correct.
We've submitted the plans already a week ago, not waiting for tonight's meeting, and understanding that there's a backlog. There's probably 3 weeks before they'll even say they'll look at it. So we're going to move on it. Like I said, before our September meeting, we're going to try to get a feel for where they are.
That sounds reasonable.
It's a reasonable.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Now, I'm just speaking for myself when I say no, but I think that we have to try to maneuver things as
My
best
only
we
thought
can.
process is right now with the state coming in, it's like, I think we need to get our, we have to whine like everybody else does so that we can get a place at the table if they do anything and say, okay, what project are we going to do and not do?
Let's give them a chance to see what they do
That's
first.
fine.
And this
That's
may
fine.
be simple enough. We could get a permit. It should be simple enough.
Right. Best laid plans.
And
All
we've the specs you've submitted conform to their regulations.
Yes, they do. But,
Right.
they're doing the job. But yeah.
Okay.
right.
Okay,
Great.
Marcy?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes.
Just state your name and address, and we'll go from there.
Cass Ronwitz, 8031 Stout. Everybody's got heaved driveways. Our driveway is sunk at the end 14 inches. If you take a line from the garage floor to the roadway, it's down 14 inches. The grass is getting higher every day when that thing keeps sinking. Then when the winter time comes, it's a hell of a time getting in and out sometimes. So that's,
So your whole driveway is sunk?
well, but the worst part is probably the last the last section is all just cracked up.
I have to ask, is it worse near your house or worse near the road?
No, this is right
Worse
at the
near
end
the
of the driveway, it goes down. Then we have gravel out, we don't have no cement on top of this stuff.
All right.
Hey,
Anything else? Okay, next.
Don Vol, 7931 Stout. So I just wanted, I had planned on replacing the driveway this year. So my understanding would be that hold up on that. When they put in new culverts, they're going to have a lower elevation than the existing.
Lower elevation.
Okay, so, all right. So we're going lower than the grade that we were given when we built the house 25 years ago.
Just at the ditch.
Yes.
So the ditch.
Okay.
With the the precast end. The top of the culvert is a foot below the top of
Because when we built, we had the grade plan from the county and the township, and it was, we've had it dug up and reset a couple times to that elevation, and it just keeps heaving the asphalt, so.
Don, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
You were going to replace your driveway. Is it asphalt or
Yes.
asphalt? You're going to replace your whole drive?
I was intending to, but because of, the problem with the heaving, my intention was like the last 10 feet was just to do it with stone, because it would be a lot cheaper to have them take the stone out and reset the culvert, and rather than digging up the asphalt or concrete all the time.
Well, our plan's not a problem for you at this point.
No, at this point, no. It's like I wanted to see where this is going before, because that was like when they paved Stout. It came as a surprise to us they were paving Stout. We just put in a new driveway at that time when we built the house to grade level. Then they paved the street. I had a 6-inch drop off to my driveway.
Okay, well, hopefully this will make it better.
Okay, so the drain and everything the elevation is being lowered.
That's correct.
Okay, then I'll leave well enough alone until.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Benton.
Steve Benton again, 7903. Just a question and then a comment. Will this fix prevent this heaving from happening in the future?
Come up to the podium, Russ. Can you come up to the podium?
Yeah, this, as I mentioned, meets the Wayne County standard that is set up to, not allow this to happen. I mean, there's no guarantees in life, but this is better than it was. Some of the culverts were, maybe 8 inches, 6 inches below the top of the driveway. So having a whole foot is certainly going to minimize, this happening in the future.
So if some are 6 inches and you were at least lower at 8 inches, you're going to be over a foot.
Yeah, it'll be a foot deeper.
Is normally the foot enough to keep it from heaving again?
Yes, it is. We feel comfortable telling you that, they're not going to heave. All I'm saying is there's no guarantees that
I understand.
There's not going to be a blockage in a severe ice storm or something along that.
Okay.
So, yeah, it will.
Thank you. Steve, continue.
Yeah, and the comment is I would like the board to consider if that replacement is made, in our case it's concrete, that the board consider defraying the cost of that replacement for that section. We have considered replacing our driveway also, but as we walk up and down Stout and look at the different engineering ideas that are on exhibit there, with concrete, with asphalt, with gravel, I think a couple even with just maybe compacted dirt. That plays into our consideration about how we do that. And what we may opt to do is just leave the end in gravel. But just for the record, I think you should consider replacing that portion that is going to be dug up for the project.
For me, could you say that again? For my sake. I want to make sure I understand you.
Well, if you take up that portion of concrete, the apron, if you will, at the end of the driveway, then I think it would be fair to have the township pay for the replacement of that section in that material.
In concrete?
Just that section. I mean, certainly not the whole driveway.
Oh, we wouldn't do that.
I understand. That's why I said what I did. But again, that's only for consideration, because I think part of our thought process will be to say, is there a possibility that it heaves up? And as Don said, I'd rather be replacing gravel than concrete again.
Well, Steve, I'd like to address that issue. So you're okay with the plan to just put it back for this year until next spring in stone? No argument there.
I am.
Yeah. Mrs. Benton, are you okay with that? Okay, so on the replacement issue, here's the dilemma I see for us. We're spending public dollars. So we know that we have different widths of driveways, whether they're concrete or asphalt or stone, but everybody's got a different width. Some of the areas that have already heaved, in order to take out a slab on the concrete drives are going to mean you may go a little further in a couple than in a couple. So the amount we would spend per lot will vary a great deal. So the question is for us, where do we stop and where do we start? What's fair and reasonable? If that's a dilemma. Now, I said, my own opinion is this is the first discussion on this tonight. I mean, we lay out our plan. I'm disappointed as chairman that we only have 3 people represented. I was hoping for more. I don't know what that tells me. But we have the dilemma of how do we treat everybody fairly in terms of what we do. And then if we do start, I know there's not a problem across the street from you, but there are some other sections of stout on the north side of the road that I've looked at that aren't heaving yet, but the drives are shallow. So I'm wondering if we start fixing everybody's driveway, do they ask to be fixed on the other side because we fixed the south side? I mean, I don't know where it stops, where it starts. And so those are some concerns I have as representing the public interest. We want to fix the drain, and everybody wants that, correct? So how far do we go with the drives? That's a challenge for the commission, as I see it. But we'll let others voice their opinion.
One other thing that we're going to have to take into consideration, every dollar that we spend on this project is less money that we can spend on other problems on the island. Now and this is really, again, Wayne County's problem, but we're taking it on. So we have to take that into consideration. The number one thing certainly is to get the flooding taken care of and that. So we do have to look at, do we want to put driveways in on Stout, or do we take care of another drainage project where somebody's flooding on another road on Groseal? So we have to look at it.
Okay, so I've been doing all the talking here. I'd like to go around the table and ask for other commissioners to express a concern or where any issue they might have. We'll start with you, Ted. If you don't want to say anything, you don't have to if we've covered it all, but I'm trying to be democratic here.
It's an interesting dilemma. We're taking funds, taxpayer funds, Groseal taxpayer funds, that were designated for drainage. We've identified a problem. It was brought to me by a couple of residents. I brought it to the commission to address it. We can take this thing a long ways, but in reality, this is a Wayne County problem. This is not a Groseal problem, but it becomes a Groseal problem when our taxpayers are suffering, the people that live here. I don't know that it would be fair. I'm not saying there's no avenue to do this, but I don't know that it would be fair to use taxpayer drainage funds to replace driveways. I think that's kind of a misuse of the funds. I'm not saying that maybe the township might not look at another avenue to do that, but that's my personal opinion. As a taxpayer that pays into the drainage fund, that's to fix drainage. And I guess I would be put out if I've got asphalt all the way to the street. They tore out a section of asphalt. You tore it out, you put it back. But the reality is we shouldn't even be tearing it out. Township shouldn't be doing this. We will go forward with our plan of building Wayne County for the work we do for them, and we know they're not going to pay us, but it's a use of funds that we have to be very cautious of, because as we move forward, and we do a lot of drainage programs, and as we move forward, we've got to be pretty selective as to how far we expand the scope of that project and still utilize the money for what it was intended for. So that's just my comments.
Good comments, as they are. Thank you. Les?
I kind of agree with Ted, what he's saying about that. But when we get this plan together and we sit down and meet with the county, why don't we see if they're going to kick anything in?
That's what we're going to meet about.
We might be able to have them pay for all the culverts if they don't want to do the work. have them pay for the culverts.
Great idea.
Or have them pay for redoing the driveways.
Well, I don't think they'll do that, but, you know, your idea of the culverts, because if they don't want to send a crew out here to do any of the work, asking them to supply the culverts is something that they could do.
Well, that'll all be decided in that meeting.
Good suggestion. John?
I have nothing further.
Jim?
Nothing further.
Ron?
I agree a lot with what Ted was saying.
Jim? Anything else?
Nothing else.
To the staff, anything you'd like to offer? Now, I would say this to all of you residents. I know I've been up there at least 6 times, looking at it again, and I got in trouble. I made my wife go up for after church a couple Sundays ago and look at the drains. So anyway, I've been up there many times. I've been up there with Les. I've been up there with Ted and Jim and Ron. I know Jim Nelson's been up there a couple of times. John, you've been up there. Our staff's been up there. So it's nothing we've ignored. We have been up there and looked at it, trying to do our due diligence. So the way we're going to leave it tonight then is we had poor attendance. And I'm disappointed in that. We have your addresses. I'm going to ask the staff, Lorinda, if you will mail out, and I'll write a cover letter, mail out the packets that you all received tonight, saying we're disappointed. If you want to come back and talk about it at our September meeting, and we'll let them know what we're doing, that we are proceeding with a permit with the hope that we can replace the drives this fall. We'll get a letter out within the next week or so to all the residents that didn't show up. If you talk to your neighbors, please ask why they didn't. If they want to call me, Lorinda can give you my number. We'd be glad to talk to them if a couple of them want to come in. I'm particularly concerned about the driveway that has the 2 approaches and the massive displacement in the concrete sections. I certainly would have thought they'd have been here, but maybe they're on vacation, right? Maybe they're on vacation. That could be. So at any rate, we may make it not just alone. I may ask somebody to go with me, visit there, and because that's the biggest impact we're going to have, I think. Anyway, those are my comments, and we'll close this session. Then we'll move on. So we're going to send out letters to everybody, and Russ, you have your marching orders. Yes. I think the other thing we're going to plan on doing, I'll discuss this with you, Andrew. I just thought of it. We, once you have some preliminary discussion with the county, even if it's not final approval, can we go out for bid? I mean, why wait till we get the county permit? So in September, we ought to be bidding this by early September. Well, we should get the bids. When we take bids, they're good for 90 days. We want to award a contract.
Ooh.
Do we need board approval to go out for bids for this?
I don't think so. No.
So why don't we, my thought is, want to come up to the podium?
Doesn't get recorded unless you're up at the podium. So.
Oh, I'm not used to that. I apologize. Our plans are probably 90% ready to go out for bids. They're 100% ready to submit to the county for permits. So we could certainly finish at 10% for bidding and bid it before we have a county approval. The only thing that affects, if the county changes things that are going to affect the cost,
you can always change the...
You may have to negotiate with a low bidder, or it may be insignificant that it doesn't make any difference to them.
Why don't you guys discuss this? But I think we certainly should be out for bids, so by mid-September we have bids. Wouldn't you think that's reasonable?
That's reasonable.
How's the commission feel about that?
Do we need...
What's a good date for all done? Every draft.
This year, again, depending on the county, like Bill mentioned, we may have trouble even restoring the ditches. If we're going to hydro seed or seed and mulch or sod, whatever the case may be,
We have to wait till the spring
because of the weather. Yes.
Getting culverts in place.
That would be the end of the year, because it's really not, if we're not too concerned about reseeding everything, it's not weather dependent, John. So we could dig a ditch in November.
Okay.
We could put gravel down in December. So
I'd say we want to be done by December 1st, before the ground freezes.
Oh, yeah, I'm looking at the worst-case scenario. I mean, if you bid it and get a contractor that's ready to go out there and you got a county permit on time, you know, you could get, I'm just not, I can't guarantee we're going to get the sod in.
It's a moving target.
I can't guarantee we'll get the sod or the hydro seed or whatever, whatever we decide to do.
Yeah, that's not a big part of it. It's,
Does everybody agree
getting
that
the
we ought
ditch.
to plan on going out for bids?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Early September? See what you can work out.
Oh, we certainly can. We'll work out a due date with the department head.
Okay. Thank you.
Bill, just a comment. We would probably need to take this in front of the board if we had extensive engineering, but 90% of the engineering is done. So there's really no additional cost to go out for bids. So
Okay.
we can just bring the big process back.
I'm all for it. Yep. Okay, thank you. All right, we'll end this discussion now. Before you all leave, you're welcome to stay because we have other business, and we'd like to have people in the audience. And the next thing we're going to discuss, let me catch up with the agenda here. We're going to discuss the November 3rd major road bond issue. And it's a good opportunity, Don and Steve and Kathy, is it, to share with you a document that the commission hasn't seen before. So, got a surprise here. I hope it's a surprise.
The ones that were working on Wall Street.
I have one.
You got yours? Couple extras. Jimmy?
I want to share with the commission, but we've been working on this for a couple weeks now, and what you've all been given a chance to look at tonight for the first time is a brochure we've prepared that describes in 4 pages the 4-year-long effort that this commission has undertaken to look at our roads and our water system. And we've proposed several improvements for our major road network, and I want to explain that, and for the water system. And we went to the Township Board with a lengthy report, and the Township Board adopted a resolution in July 13th, placing on the ballot, November 3rd, a proposition that we sell bonds, general obligation bonds of $18,800,000 to fund this program. It's a major road and water main improvement program. So to the commission, we've worked with the staff, the township manager, Jim Budney, myself, Ted Van Oz, and we've come up with this document. The intent is to share it with you tonight, but we've proofread it, we've discussed it over a long period of time, and I want to just explain it. So the document is going to be mailed out, and as you can see from the mailing on the back sheet, be mailed out to every resident. Now, we want to be open on this subject. We want to be totally open, not be accused of trying to get something on the ballot that people are not aware of. So we would print 5,000 copies of this document. 4,000 would be mailed out, and 1,000 would be available. So when we go speak to the Rotary Club or the church groups or the garden club or the firemen or policemen or whoever we can talk to, we're going to go and make presentations. So if you look at the cover, you see a beautiful picture of a nice road, and you see a water main on the front. A lot of our water main and the water main on East River Road in your area near Stout looks like this. It was a 6-inch main, and Les over here who work for the water department would tell you that the buildup of mineral deposits on the inside reduces the capacity of those mains. We also have a number of breaks in those mains. So what we tried to do, commissioners, is catch people's eye. So when they open this, it says fixing our roads, and there's a map of the road improvements. Then the whole, on the page 2, if you open it, is all the language that would be on the ballot. It says yes or no. And we're not asking for people to vote yes. We're not asking for people to vote no. We're asking for people to vote. So there's the proposition. And then there's an explanation of how the bonds would be sold and what the money would be used for, and the proposed explanation. And the key to this is the blue box on the bottom. It says you're invited. The DPS Commission will hold 2 open houses sessions to explain this proposal and answer questions. September 29th, which is a special meeting, at 7 p.m. The room has been cleared. We have that room that evening. It's after summer vacations are over. It's before the absent ballots go out. So the township manager and I came up with this date. And October 13th, which is our next our October meeting. And at our October meeting, we would make a presentation on it. And the meetings will be telecast on cable TV and live. So all that information is in that box. So every resident will have this information, and people won't be able to say that we tried to sneak something by. We're trying to lay it out and inform the public. So if you look at the roadmap to the citizens here, what you'll notice is the green on the red map, or on the road map, are roads that would be resurfaced. In your case, we're talking about East River Road. The 2 miles of East River between Ferry and Horse Mill, which are in very bad shape. And another section between Manchester and Parkway. Then Meridian, that I'm sure you used, and Ferry and West River in the green would all be resurfaced. Church Road is in yellow. It's very bad shape. Church Road is beyond resurfacing. We hope to widen it a couple feet. It's the route to our churches, particularly the Catholic Church, and to one of our elementary schools. So the plan is to fix Church Road properly. And then all the red, it represents chip seal. It's a method we tried this year. Most people like it. It's a good treatment for the surface to prolong the life of the asphalt roads that are not gone. And we propose in the time span of this 4 years, when we do the work, to chip seal twice all the roads that are shown in red. And if you look at that map, that covers almost all of the major road network, the primary road system that connects us to our neighborhoods. So there's something in there for everybody. On the water mains, we propose to replace all the water mains on the map shown in blue. And most of these water mains are 6-inch, 60-year-old cast iron water mains that we're going to upgrade to 12-inch ductile iron pipe. And as you can see, south, East River, that whole section, the 2 miles of water main would be fixed, as 2 miles would on West River, almost 2 miles on Meridian, and again, Church Road and a couple of other areas. So that's the essence of what we're talking about. The back page just goes into a little bit about road dollars, how road dollars have declined at the state level, which we read about in the Detroit News and Free Press all the time. We know the legislature hasn't addressed it. And also, I have to say, we've met with Wayne County. It's our opinion, this DPS Commission has formed the opinion, Wayne County is not going to fix our roads. They will patch potholes, but in my lifetime, they're not going to resurface roads. So if we don't do it, we have a choice. Either we leave the roads the way they are, or we come up with some kind of a program. So that's what this is about. I'm glad you stayed. Hope it makes sense to you. So back to the commission. Our whole effort is to go out and try to, I don't know what you think of this, public information piece, but it's the direction we're proposing to move in. So.
I just said one, I understand. Proofreading, I think, is very important. So when I look at Roman 2, the fourth line, it says the first series will be sold in 2016. So if anybody notices that there's some little typographical error, I think
John,
materials,
can you tell me where it is?
Fourth line, series will end sold in 2016. So obviously, I think it was just a slip of a finger on the keyboard.
Yep.
But that kind of thing, as a young attorney practicing law, was frightening when you were in the old partner's office and he said, what about this? In sold in the amount of. I mean, that would be, you wouldn't be liking that at all. You'd be worried about your Christmas bonus. So if anybody notices anything like that in this official correspondence that goes out, and that's Russ and George and everybody, point it out because it just improves the product that's being delivered to the community.
Well, John, I'm glad you caught that because
I'm sure you
this has been proofread by 5 or 6 people, and nobody caught that. We've caught other things, but yeah, by all means, read it because my hope is, and when I say to you read it, you need to get all your comments either to me tomorrow or to Lorinda tomorrow. But we've proofread it. Jim will tell you that. Lorinda will tell you that. I've for Dale, the township manager, and that's a good catch because nobody caught it. Nobody caught it.
Doing that as a young lawyer.
Yeah. Well, that's very good, and you know,
you the senior partner's office.
So that's great. I appreciate that very much. So we still have time to correct that. Thank you.
It appears.
Yeah. So other comments from anybody? Any comments about our plan?
Now, I've talked to some people in the community, and they say they're not voting for the road millage, but they'll vote for the water.
Well, we tied them together, Les. If it isn't approved, we can decide what do we do? Go back to the voters with just water and or
We have to come back, we come back.
Yeah, we couldn't afford to split it. We certainly wouldn't want the opposite, where the road passed and the water didn't, and then we came back with the water and have to tear up the roads to do it. That's why it's together.
And that's a good point, Les. And, you know, just to the audience, we made the decision a couple of years ago as we talked about this. We know these water mains have to be fixed. Our water rates are already very high. We could just go ahead and issue what's called a revenue bond and raise the water rates and pay for it without a vote of the people. We decided not to do that because if it's on the taxes, at least it's deductible when you do your income tax. And we thought rather than raise the water rates to do it, let's put it on the ballot. And we don't want to be paving a major road and then come back a year later and destroy part of it by fixing the water main. That was a decision we made. So,
well, I object to another thing.
Go ahead.
I know you're the road guy. I'm the water and sewer guy. That should be a little bit bigger. Fixing our roads, you see that, you go, wow. And then the water system is only 1/4 of an inch high.
Okay. I knew that. I'm really thankful that John caught that error, but I knew that we bring it to you, we're going to get all kinds of proposals here. Anyway, so our plan is once we have this in place, I'm going to start calling people when we get speaking engagements and we have something to hand out. We're going to have a full press the latter part of August through September to go out and speak to as many groups as we can. Okay? All right, so I've been talking again too much. Anybody from the audience want to react? I put everybody to sleep? Okay. All right, well, thank you very much. So that's my topic on that for tonight. Next, I'd ask if Lorinda and Ted could give us an update. You all have a copy of this Great Lakes Water Authority fact sheet. And do either of you want to make any comments? Ted?
I do. The new Water Authority held a fact information meeting, which I attended. It was at Brownstown Township City Hall. And a couple things kind of stood out. You know, it's almost an unsurmountable problem. But the two things that really came out in that meeting was, number one, 50% of your water bill is to address interest in loans. 50%. of the water that we buy from the city of Detroit, that cost is to satisfy previous $5 billion in loans. That's not going to get any better. There's probably $5 to $6 billion requirement in infrastructure repair that they're looking at going forward. So no matter how they ice that cake, it's like putting frosting on you-know-what. I mean, we have a major problem going forward here. When the Water Authority took over, we were assured, I think there was even publications, correct me if I'm wrong, Lorinda, that there would not be, they would guarantee no more than a 4% increase annually over 10 years. Well, that language has changed. It's now they're guaranteeing no more than 4% based on revenue. As you all know, over the past 15 years, the revenue and the usage of the water in the system has continually gone down. And we're about to have a big issue with Genesee and Flint. So just take that 4% out of your head because it's not real. It's not going to happen. And I can't even estimate what it's going to be going forward. And neither can they. Now, I will say this. Under the authority, they're going to try or attempt to make the city of Detroit a little more responsible for their portion of that bill, because 48% of the people in Detroit don't pay their water bill. Guess what? We do.
How valid is that statistic?
It was their statistic. It came from the...
More.
Huh?
It might be more.
Oh, yeah, it could be, but that was theirs. I didn't check any of these numbers. They don't meter the water going into Detroit as they don't in the one section of Dearborn. So if they have water loss through a broken main or something in a building, we pay for it. They don't. I mean, it doesn't affect their water bill other than in the hole. We all pay for it. So they have a number of issues. The new woman that took over, I can't remember what her name is.
Sue McCormick?
McCormick. Sharp lady. And the facts that the issues that she's addressing are very critical issues. They're issues of staffing. They're issues of infrastructure as far as facilities, facility upgrades, facility maintenance. There's a handle on that. And I think she's got a very good handle on it. I was really impressed with the woman. I mean, she came across the issues that she has control of, she will control. And I was very impressed with that. But the truth of the matter is, this system, she is now talking about, here's an example. One of the water systems, pumping stations, was capable, and don't quote me on these numbers, but I'm going to give you the numbers that I remember. It was 5.5 million gallons per hour. This station, there's 5 of these stations that this station was capable. And when she went to visit this station, she asked what they needed. And they said, we need an upgrade for all of these pumps and all of the equipment in here because it hasn't been addressed for years and years and years. And she said, well, how much water do you pump? And it was less than 20% of their capacity. She said, well, why would you rebuild everything when you know you're never going to get there? Why wouldn't we rebuild the equipment that we need to deliver what the demand is? Made a lot of sense to me because they can't separate these systems because they're not interconnected. So she's talking about downsizing. Great thought. And because that'll make a big difference on how much money they spend for infrastructure upgrade. But the overall picture was not pleasant. I don't think we're going to see a lot of breaks in our water. They're driving to, 78% fixed
70%.
costs?
Well, right now we're at 60%, but they want to raise it to 70.
70 or 75 is their ultimate goal?
Yep.
Once that gets there, then the usage portion of the demand for us will be everybody that reduces their flow going forward will cost us more money in unit price. So a lot of bleak things, the things that they can handle, I think they're handling. The things that they can handle, like 50% of the cost of water is in servicing debt. I don't know how we get away from that. I mean, and I don't, unless somebody steps in and corrects that, I don't know. And that's all revenue bonds, by the way, and they can't be forgiven. I mean, these are bondholders that bought those based on revenue of that department. And if the usage goes down, the revenue goes down, but the bond still has to be paid, so the rates go up to match that. Kind of what's happened here with our sewer project.
All right, well, I have 3 questions for you. First is, I thought Detroit system was going to be metered. They were no longer going to be the wholesale supplier.
That's what they're going to try to do, yes.
Going to try to meter Detroit.
Going to try to meter Detroit.
First thing. The second thing is, and on page 2 of the question and answer handout thing, it says that more than 160 stakeholders from across the DWSD area were participated in study groups and work teams. We're a stakeholder.
Right.
Did we participate?
We weren't asked.
My knowledge, we weren't asked.
My knowledge, and I told her that. She asked if I was there, because she'd seen me at a couple of these meetings, and I said I was never asked to be there.
So okay, so who are the
So the answer to that is no.
Who are the stakeholders? That's the question. Now I feel like Rick Perry. I forgot the third question. Maybe it'll come to me. Lorinda, you want to add anything to? All right. We'll open it up for commissioners. Do you have any questions of Ted or Lorinda? Oh, I know what third question was. We once, a few years ago, when the rates were continuing to rise before this Detroit bankruptcy, we, along with City of Trenton and Riverview, commissioned a study to see what it would take to build our own intake, either in the Trenton Channel or Lake Gibraltar Bay or something, and build our own water plant and separate from Detroit. When we got the cost estimate of over $50 million, we didn't proceed, but that's off the table now, I assume.
Well, the reason it's off the table is the federal government says that if there is redundancy available in public water service, you must use it if it's available. So the city of Detroit's going to be available even if we don't use it. And if they drive their cost up to 75% as fixed cost for infrastructure upgrades, then we're going to pay 75% even if the valve's turned off. Doesn't make any sense. Just doesn't make any sense.
All right. Well, it's a subject that is coming up, and it's going to be a topic for the next couple of years to discuss.
I would guess I'll probably be long in the ground before this is no longer a topic.
All right. Yeah, that was my questions. Les, you have anything?
On this?
Yeah.
Or
this?
On it? No, I don't have any questions on this, but I do on the commission's report.
Jim, Ron, Jim?
Nope. No.
Everybody satisfied? Really, you don't want to say anything more on it, so we're all set. Ross, do you have a question?
No, I don't.
Thanks for the report, Ted. All right, so Chairman has no other report. Commissioners' comments. Ted, anything else?
No, I want to thank the public that came out today. We're really trying to get this project done for you. It's a political wheel that you have to keep kicking, and sometimes the emergency brake is on, but we're at least moving on it, and thanks for your interest, because I know it affects all of you, and it's important. So.
Hey, Ted, Les.
I thought Joe Keefe would have something on this agenda for that electronic gizmo they're looking at.
Joe, you want to approach the podium?
There's no discussion and no action item on it.
You want a gizmo?
An electronic gizmo.
Electronic
the
gizmo.
power monitoring.
And the Canute valve, too. I want to know about that.
Okay. No, I had a bunch of stuff going on the last month, and I had to actually ask Lorinda to. I told her I would not be ready for this meeting to come back with prices. Just I was on vacation. My mother-in-law passed away, and
Okay.
I wasn't here.
See you next month.
I'll have it next month.
Okay. The other thing I was talking about was the chip sealing of gravel roads. This morning, I heard this racket, and I took a walk down the street, and it was the guys sealing the cracks. And I talked to the gentleman that was there, and he asked me how we liked the chip seal, and I says, great. I've heard good and bad. And I asked him about chip sealing the gravel roads. He says there's no problem. The only thing we got to look at is we got to look at the cost. And I don't know if we've done that within the last month.
Oh, no, I took your comment, made a note of it. Right now we're out of money. And I thought, depending on what happens with our bond proposal, next spring, if whatever happens, we're either going to be approved to go forward with this, and we could try some chip sealing of gravel then with the new program, or if we have money in next year's budget, we could allocate some of it to do a section and try it. But we're not going to do it now because.
So I just wonder if we got a cost on it.
I do not, no.
But I
I haven't forgotten. I thought it was a good thought.
I noticed that some of the dust bond that they put on some of the streets have just disintegrated to nothing. I know half of my street is dusty again, and the other half in front of my house is real good.
Well, frankly, I'd like to try the chip seal of some gravel, so I thought that would be a topic for next year.
I think the guy that I talked to was the foreman out here when they did all the rest of the stuff, and he gave me some good information.
Okay.
That's all.
Does that answer your question? I mean, does it sound reasonable to wait till we do next spring when we put the budget?
Well, the other thing I have is the September 8th meeting, the day after Labor Day. I think you should check to see how many people are going to be here.
Let's check to see. Are you going to be here? John? I'll be here.
Don't know.
We don't know if Phil's going to be here.
Phil's going to be back.
I doubt it.
Oh, boy.
Well, we'll play it by ear as it gets closer. Okay?
Yeah, even if we can't have a meeting, I'd still keep the date and do a presentation on the. Do a presentation for the residents.
Or move it a week later.
Well, the problem is also getting the room.
But it's something to keep in mind. So as we approach the last 2 weeks from now, let's just start checking. Something to think about, okay? Put it on your list. Please.
That's why I put it on the agenda that way.
One simple thought. Our water's metered. So the more water that runs through your meter, the higher your number is going to be. Check. And what's a good simple test, if you choose to do so, there's a small shutoff valve next to the water closet for your toilets. If you shut that valve off and monitor the toilet tank for a minimal amount of time, if you have a bad leak, you will notice the tank diminish fairly rapidly. And then you can figure in a 24-hour period how much water you're losing when you're not using the toilet. Now, why that's better than a dye test, you can actually see the gallons that are running. So if you have a siphon system with the automatic shutoff and it's not closing down completely, so your valve's a little open, then you can lose your water closet gallonage in a short amount of time, or perhaps a little longer amount of time. The repair for that is fairly simple. The parts are probably $15, and if you have no leak, then within a reasonable amount of time after you shut the valve off and you have no leak, the closet is still filled with water. Then you've got a good functioning shutoff system. If you do have a leak, you'll actually know the time that it takes for a set amount of water to leak through your system. That can provide a substantial savings if you're leaking. And you won't be able to tell it just by looking at the toilet tank. And the dye test won't tell you the amount, but that shutoff test will. So that's used in other communities. It's recommended, especially for older people. Some senior centers recommend that the people do that. So I'm just passing that out as a potential avenue for potential savings. And it would then be actual savings should you have a problem. And other than the spelling error, Bill, I have nothing else.
Thank you for that. Thank you. I have nothing. Jim?
Nothing.
Ron?
Nothing.
Jim Budney?
All set.
I make a motion, we adjourned.
To the staff, do you have anything?
One other thing I'd like to add is that Wayne County was out. I'm not sure if it was last week or the week before, but they also put dust control down on Thoroughfare and Park Lane as we needed it again.
You say Wayne County did it?
Wayne County did it, yes.
They have equipment to do that?
Have you heard any more, Lorenda, about
That yours?
Parkway and Jefferson?
I have heard. I've heard the last. I heard from Beverly Watts, who's she is in Warren Evans' office, and she stated that it was supposed to be let on August the 15th. So start date after that, who knows? So you're probably looking at next year, if at all.
Surprise.
Yeah.
And that program, Wayne County's had the fix of Jefferson out at the county bridge and Parkway coming up to the bridge for at least 3 or 4 years, and they were supposed to start it in July.
Now, August 15th was what I heard. Did you
Yep,
hear
that's what I heard. August 15th was the last date.
August 15th.
Is that the date they're going to award a contract, or simply start
I asked
work?
when was the work going to start, and I was told August the 15th. It's not going to happen.
Well, it's not August 15th yet.
But it's Saturday.
All right.
Boy, that's optimistic.
Okay, people. Nothing else from the audience. We'll adjourn the meeting.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Support.
Meeting is adjourned.
Emily Claire Barlow with Summer Song.